Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Sitting in the conference room, my hand was steady as I signed the last document. The ink flowed across the page, sealing the deal. I, Micheal, had just sold my successful business. This moment marked more than just a business transaction. It was the beginning of a personal exploration I had postponed for too long. Walking out of the office, the weight of years of hard work and dedication seemed to lift off my shoulders. I felt a mix of relief and nervousness about what lay ahead. I had always harbored a secret desire, one that was deeply personal and private. It was a longing to experience the world through a different lens, to express a side of me that I had kept hidden. Today was the day I decided to step into that uncharted territory. My first stop was a clothing store in a quiet part of town, away from the prying eyes of those who knew me. The store's windows displayed an array of women's clothing. I felt my heart racing as I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The soft chime of the doorbell announced my entry, and a gentle hum of music played in the background. The store was a kaleidoscope of colors and textures. Racks of clothes lined the walls, filled with dresses, skirts, blouses, and more. I walked past them, my fingers brushing against the fabrics, feeling the silk, cotton, and satin. Each texture was a new sensation, distinct and intriguing. I found myself drawn to the skirts. There was a wide range, from knee-length pencil skirts to flowing maxis. One particular skirt caught my eye. It was a pleated midi skirt in a deep royal blue. The fabric had a slight shimmer to it, catching the light as it moved. I picked it up, feeling the weight and smoothness of the material. Trying it on felt like stepping into a new world. The skirt wrapped around me comfortably, the fabric resting gently against my skin. I looked at myself in the mirror, turning this way and that, watching how the skirt moved with me. It was a strange yet intriguing sight, seeing myself, yet seeing someone different at the same time. Next, I moved on to wigs. I had always imagined myself with long flowing hair, something entirely different from my short practical hairstyle. The wig section was smaller but had a variety of styles and colors. I chose a wig with long chestnut brown hair. It felt light and natural as I put it on, transforming my appearance further. With the skirt and wig chosen, I needed shoes. I was aware that walking in heels was a skill, so I opted for a pair of modest black pumps. They were simple but elegant, with a small heel that I hoped would be manageable. I paid for my purchases, my hands slightly trembling as I handed over my credit card. The cashier smiled at me, her gaze kind and devoid of judgment. I packed my new belongings into a plain bag, a sense of privacy surrounding my choices. Exiting the store, I felt a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension. I had taken the first steps on a path that was entirely new to me. The skirt, the wig, the shoes, they were all symbols of a part of me that I was just beginning to understand and explore. As I drove back home, my mind was a whirl of thoughts and emotions. I had crossed a line that I had drawn for myself years ago, venturing into a realm that was both foreign and intimately personal. Yet, there was a sense of rightness about it, a feeling that this was a part of me that deserved to be expressed and explored. Reaching home, I carried my bag inside with a sense of purpose. The house was quiet. The only sounds were my footsteps and the soft rustling of the bag. I was alone, free to explore this new aspect of myself without eyes watching or voices commenting. I laid out my purchases on the bed, the skirt, the wig, the shoes. They were more than just items of clothing. They represented a part of me that was waiting to be understood. The next morning, I woke up early, filled with a quiet excitement. Today, I was going to try on my new skirt, wig, and shoes for the first time at home. But before that, there was something else I wanted to do. I had decided to shave my body hair, something I had never done before. I thought it would help me feel more comfortable in the skirt. In the bathroom, I gathered everything I needed: a new razor, shaving cream, and a lot of patience. I started with my legs. It felt strange at first, the razor gliding over my skin, but I got used to it quickly. The sensation of the cream and the razor was new and a bit ticklish, but I was careful, making sure not to cut myself. After a while, I looked down at my legs, now smooth and hairless. The feeling of my skin was so different, it was soft and felt nice. Next, I moved on to my arms and then my chest. Each stroke of the razor removed a little more hair, revealing skin that hadn't seen the light of day in years. It was a slow process, but I didn't mind. It felt like I was preparing for something important. Once I was done, I stepped into the shower to wash off. The water felt different on my smooth skin, almost like a soft tickle. I dried off and stood in front of the mirror. Looking at myself, I felt a mix of feelings. I was the same person, but also not. It was confusing, but also kind of exciting. I went to my room and began to dress. First, I put on a pair of simple underwear, then the skirt. The fabric felt cool and smooth against my skin. It was a nice feeling. The skirt fit perfectly, not too tight or too loose. I twirled a bit, watching how it flared out. It was fun to see it move like that. Next came the wig. I put it on carefully, adjusting it so it sat right. Looking in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. The long chestnut brown hair framed my face differently than my usual short hair. It was a big change, but I liked it. Now it was time for the shoes. I sat on the edge of my bed and slipped my feet into the black pumps. Standing up was a bit tricky at first. The heels weren't very high, but I wasn't used to them. I took a few careful steps, wobbling a bit. It was harder than it looked, but I was determined to learn. After a few minutes of walking around my room, I started to get the hang of it. I had to walk slower and pay more attention to how I placed my feet, but it wasn't impossible. I even managed to walk back and forth without holding on to anything for balance. With my outfit complete, I went back to the mirror. The person looking back at me was different from the one I was used to seeing. It was strange, but also interesting. I turned and looked at myself from different angles, trying to see all the changes. The last thing I wanted to try was makeup. I had bought some basic items: foundation, eyeshadow, mascara, and lipstick. I had watched some videos online to learn how to apply them. I knew it wouldn't be perfect the first time, but I wanted to try. I started with the foundation, spreading it evenly over my face. It felt a bit heavy, but it made my skin look smoother. Next came the eyeshadow. I chose a light brown color, not too bright. It was tricky to get it right, but after a few tries, it looked okay. Mascara was next, and it was the hardest. I had to be very careful not to poke myself in the eye. It took a few attempts, but eventually, I managed to get it on both lashes without making too much of a mess. Lastly, I applied the lipstick. It was a simple pink color, nothing too bold. It was easier to apply than I expected. Looking in the mirror, I saw my transformation was complete. I was still me, but also someone new. I spent the rest of the morning trying different poses and expressions in the mirror. It was fun to experiment with my new look. I even practiced my walk some more, getting more confident with each step. After spending the morning getting used to my new look, I decided it was time to really see myself. I stood in front of my full-length mirror, taking in my reflection. There I was, wearing the royal blue skirt, the chestnut brown wig, and black pumps. My face, with the light makeup, looked different, but I could still see me in there. I felt a mix of emotions looking at myself. Part of me was nervous, wondering what others would think if they saw me like this. But another part of me felt happy, seeing myself in a way I had always imagined but never thought I'd see. The skirt was soft and flowed around my legs as I moved. I liked the way it swished when I walked. The wig felt like real hair, and it was fun to see myself with long hair. The makeup was simple, but it changed how my face looked. It was all so new, but also exciting. I practiced moving around in my skirt and heels. I had to learn how to sit down and stand up in a way that kept the skirt in place. It was tricky at first, but I got better with practice. Walking in heels was still a challenge, but I was getting more confident. I also tried different ways of moving my arms and hands. I noticed that little changes made a big difference in how I looked. It was like learning a new way to be. But it was interesting to see how these changes made me feel. As I stood there, I thought about what it meant to dress like this. I knew some people might not understand or be kind about it, but for me, it was about trying something that felt right, even if it was different. I spent a long time in front of the mirror, just looking at myself. It was like meeting someone new, but also knowing them very well. I tried smiling, laughing, and even making silly faces. It was fun to see how my expressions changed with my new look. After a while, I realized it was getting late in the afternoon. The sun was starting to go down, and the light in my room was changing. It made my reflection look different, softer somehow. I knew it was time to change back into my regular clothes. I carefully took off the skirt, wig, and shoes, putting them back in their places. I washed off the makeup, watching it disappear down the sink. Standing in my regular clothes again, I looked in the mirror one last time. I was back to looking like the usual me, but something felt different. I had seen a part of myself that I had never shown anyone before. It was a strange feeling, but not a bad one. I decided to spend the rest of the evening just relaxing. I made myself some dinner and watched a bit of TV, but my mind kept going back to how I looked in the skirt and wig. It was something I knew I wanted to explore more. I turned off the light and got into bed, feeling tired but also a bit excited. The next morning, I woke up feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. Today, I had decided to do something big. I was going to go outside dressed in my skirt, wig, and makeup. It was a scary thought, but also something I really wanted to try. After breakfast, I went to my room to get ready. I put on the skirt, which swished around my legs as I moved. The wig went on next, the long hair feeling so different from my own. I took extra care with my makeup, trying to make sure it looked as good as I could get it. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. I was nervous about what people would think, but I also felt a little bit of thrill. I was doing something I had only dreamed about before. Taking a deep breath, I opened my front door and stepped outside. The sun was shining and there was a light breeze. It felt strange to be outside like this, but also kind of freeing. I decided to take a walk around my neighborhood. As I walked, I could feel the skirt moving with me and the wig's hair brushing against my back. It was a new feeling, but I liked it. Some people walked by me. I was worried about what they would think, but most of them didn't seem to notice or care. Some people did look a bit surprised, but nobody said anything mean. It made me feel a little more relaxed. Walking in the heels was still tricky, especially outside. I had to be careful where I stepped so I didn't trip, but I was getting better at it, and it felt like an accomplishment to be able to walk around like this. As I walked, I felt the breeze on my face and through the wig's hair. It was a nice day, and being outside felt good. I even walked past a small park where I saw some birds and flowers. It was peaceful, and for a little while, I forgot to be nervous. After a while, I decided it was time to head back home. I had been out for quite some time, and I was starting to feel tired. Walking in heels wasn't easy, and I wanted to rest. On my way back, I thought about what I had just done. I had been scared, but I had also done something I really wanted to do. It felt like a big step for me, even if it was just a walk around the neighborhood. When I got home, I went straight to my room. I took off the skirt, wig, and shoes and wiped off the makeup. It felt good to sit down and relax after being out. I spent the rest of the day just taking it easy. I watched some TV and read a book. But my mind kept going back to my walk. I felt proud of myself for doing it, even though it was scary. After my walk outside, I felt a new kind of confidence. It was like I had opened a door to a part of myself that I had always kept hidden. Now, I wanted to share this part of me with the people I cared about. I knew it might be hard, but I felt it was important. I decided to start by talking to a few of my closest friends. I was really nervous about it. I didn't know how they would react or what they would think, but these were friends who had always been there for me, so I hoped they would understand. One evening, I invited them over to my house. When they arrived, we sat down in the living room and I told them about everything. I talked about how I felt, about buying the skirt, wig, and makeup, and about my walk outside. I showed them pictures of me in my new outfit. Some of my friends were surprised, but they listened to me. They asked questions, trying to understand how I felt. It was a bit scary to be so open, but it also felt good to share my feelings. Unfortunately, not all of my friends were supportive. A couple of them didn't understand and said some unkind things. It hurt, but I knew that not everyone would accept this part of me. I was sad to see them go, but I also knew I had to be true to myself. The friends who stayed were really kind. They told me they supported me and that they were proud of me for being brave. It made me feel really good to know that I had friends who cared about me no matter what. We spent the rest of the evening talking and laughing. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was happy that I had friends who accepted me for who I was. The next few days were a mix of feelings. I was sad about the friends I had lost, but I also felt happy about the ones who stayed. I realized that it was important to be around people who supported and cared about me. I started to spend more time with my supportive friends. We did all sorts of fun things together, like going to the movies, eating out, and just hanging out at each other's houses. It was nice to be myself around them. As time went on, I became more comfortable with my new look. I started to wear my skirt and wig more often, even when I was just at home. It felt natural, like it was a part of who I was. I also began to explore more with my style. I tried different kinds of skirts, blouses, and even some dresses. I experimented with different colors and styles of wigs. It was fun to see how different outfits made me feel. My journey wasn't always easy. There were times when I felt scared or unsure, but I also felt a sense of happiness and freedom that I had never felt before. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.